Okay, we're at 11:35, so I'm going to get cracking, and we can get this session underway. So hopefully you can see my screen share on the main side there. So click into that so you've got it full screen. I'm going to be walking you through some slides as part of that. So just first off, for anybody that's new, that hasn't met me before, that doesn't know my face, I'm Matt Woodward. I'm the head of developer relations at Swirls Labs for Hedera. Um, I'm essentially a full stack developer by trade. I'm immensely passionate about all things technology, innovation, Web3, NFTs, and mostly helping everybody to learn and be the best developer they can be. We're going to be running through, obviously, a session today that I'll talk to you about the outcomes for in a second. This will be recorded, as I mentioned, so for those of you watching it async, all of this should still apply to you anyway, and you're welcome to reach out with any questions as we go. Feel free to connect with me through either of the modes that I've got on this slide, at Twitter or at LinkedIn, and I'm on most other social media platforms with the same alias as well, so Woodward Matt for most of that too. Okay, so this session is all about ideas. In this hackathon, you're going to be asked to present an idea that you've ideated, validated, and iterated as well. In this workshop, we're going to explore a successful project on Hedera and work out why it's a good idea, so that you can create a great idea as well and explore one during this hackathon. The whole point of this hackathon is to support you to build amazing projects on Hedera. And so I'm going to help you to make sure that you can communicate and how you communicate that idea and explore it as part of the projects that you build. We fundamentally want you to be successful in your endeavors throughout the hackathon. So, what makes a great idea? One example of a great startup on Hedera is TuneFM. We're going to ask them questions now, and these are going to be the same questions that we ask when we assess your project during the hackathon as well, to determine what makes it a good idea. I'm essentially going to be asking you to create a recipe for, what are the success criteria for this hackathon. So let's start by looking at the TuneFM pitch video. I'm going to play it on the next slide. If the audio doesn't come through or work very well, I'll try and share the link to it in chat as well. So bear with me here.
One great crypto startup is TuneFM. TuneFM is the Web3 of Spotify that's actually live and working. It already has artists like Beyonce on there, and basically when music gets played, the artist gets paid immediately for every second of streaming. And it's much more than what an artist can earn on Spotify, like upwards of 10 times more. The reason this is possible is because it's run on their native Jam token, which is based on Hedera Hashgraph, an enterprise-level distributed ledger technology owned by Google, IBM, Boeing, and more. This tech is already working for these giant companies, and it actually allows for fast and cheap microtransactions, unlike fiat or Bitcoin or any other coin project you see out there that's based on an Ethereum ERC protocol. This allows for artists to get paid right away, and it even allows for you, the listener, to get paid just by listening to music on TuneFM. That means if you help discover new music or curate music on TuneFM, you can get paid. If this sounds at all interesting to you, TuneFM is giving you guys 100 Jam coins for free to give it a listen right now when you go to TuneFM with the link below and sign up. You have nothing to lose by giving it a try, and you'll be helping to improve the music industry. So go to TuneFM with the link below to claim your free 100 Jam coins right now.
Okay, I'm not sure if the audio on that came through or not for you guys, but hopefully it does. If it didn't come through very clearly, the link to that video, I can't share it in chat, it's blocking me from sending that message, but it will be on the slides that will be available and shared after this session as well, so that you can click back through to it if you need to. So, first of all, what I want you to think about now is what are the key components of Web3 that they are using in that startup from the pitch video that we've just watched. So type in the chat now which numbers you think TuneFM are using in their project. For example, is it 1? Is it 1, 2, and 4? Have a look at the options that are on screen on this slide right now. And feel free to use the chat. If you haven't before, you can just click into the box and type the numbers. Just looking for you to pick out which of those particular options you think TuneFM are using right now as part of what you've seen in that pitch video. If you can provide me with some responses in that chat box. Just going to give you a minute or two to do that. We've got 1, distributed ledger technology. 2, they use a distributed application. 3, they're using tokenomics for perhaps incentives, event access, or voting. Or 4, they might be using tokenized assets that represent physical or virtual goods. So Jeremy, you're saying 4. Thank you. That's good. Any other input on this in terms of which of those items you think that Tune FM are using right now? Hotfix Houdini, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Couldn't hear it, so couldn't tell. Sorry about that, Sarah. We'll share it afterwards. I know the narrative was so important as well. So apologies for that. Okay, so we've got 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got. I couldn't tell because the sound wasn't on. So let's. Hopefully, you can pick this up afterwards from the slides and the link that I'll share in that as well. So the short answer is they use all of them. So Hotfix Houdini, well done. You got all of them. A great idea on this hackathon obviously has to use Web3 technologies on Hedera. I'm not saying that you have to use all of them, as these guys have in their projects. But if you haven't used at least one, this is not the droid that we're looking for, right? Do not submit. We want you to use Web3 solutions as part of this hackathon, and specifically the Web3 services exposed by Hedera. So keep that in mind for the success criteria. We must have Web3 tools in what we submit. I know that seems like a bit of a no-brainer, but you would be surprised. Okay, number 2. So Tune FM have taken a proven product market fit in Web2. Then Web3 has emerged with new technology, new capabilities, allowing this solution to evolve. So what does Web3 allow this solution to solve in a way that Web2 can't? What do you see the benefit of using Web3 technology here? And if this is Spotify, say version 3.0, what is the benefit of using Web3? And if it helps, think about it from the problems that perhaps Web2 is creating, that Web3 is solving. If you've got any thoughts around that, please feel free to share them in chat. Again, provide me with your input. I like these sessions to be interactive, so feel free to type in chat if you've got thoughts about what it is that has perhaps allowed this project to come about and change from being a model that works in Web2 to working in Web3. What have they done that's made it better? Anybody got any thoughts, any ideas you want to share? Give you a second or two to think about that. What is it that Tune FM are doing in their version of this product market fit that is different in Web3? Can I give you room? Any takers? Direct P2P royalties. Great, Sarah. Thank you. That is a very, very relevant. It's user incentivized, absolutely. So that's definitely one. Okay, so there's a few in here. The key things that come to mind for me are that it's obviously privacy self-custody. Great. Thank you, Derek. That's perfect. Absolutely right. So it's decentralized. There are no walled gardens here hiding the platform or the business metrics. You can see very clearly from the ledger what is going on. It's transparent in that sense. Because it's transparent as well, and specifically on Hedera, it's got that fairness element too. So you heard, you probably wouldn't have heard if the audio didn't come through, but when the music gets played, the artist is paid. That's their slogan. So in that sort of sense, it's making sure there is fairness in terms of the equity of revenue that comes in that sense. There are microtransactions. Sarah touched on this a little bit as well. So, low network fees enable this disruptive business model where you can actually do micro payments, and it means between 10 and 100x return for the artists compared to what they would earn on other platforms. That's massive, an absolute really significant leap. Censorship resistant from Brendan's point of view as well. Absolutely, you cannot you cannot sidestep the fact that the transparency and fairness give rise to that. You cannot censor this in that way. Sarah touched on it in terms of user incentivized as well. So there's a play to earn component to this model. So where there's promoted music for first time listeners, you will actually get paid for listening to music that you haven't experienced before. And finally, again, obvious one, but I'm going to call it out. It uses Web3 only capabilities. So NFTs, tokenization, that just doesn't exist in the same way in Web2. So obviously it has to use them, right? So you can probably see from that there's, in essence, a technology shift. And for those of you that have gone through the transition from Web 1 to Web 3, you'll absolutely be able to resonate with the log-on changes that have gone on throughout that. So technology has changed. The economy has changed as well. We've gone from being in an information economy when it was Web 1 through to more of a platform economy when it was Web 2, when those were generating revenue for the very own platforms. But now in Web3, it's very much more about the ownership of your own data, your own economy that you can bring into this, and a lots more, play to earn, learn to earn, lots of capabilities in this space where you, as a participant, get to play a part and own that economy, if you like. So a good idea needs to be really clear on why it needs Web3 technologies. And in this hackathon, I want you to think really clearly about how you can articulate why you have chosen Web3 as you go through presenting your ideas. That's a really tenuous, not tenuous, it's a real kind of thing that seems obvious, but it's so many times you will get something that's random. So please think about how you're integrating Web3 into your solution, and what sort of role that has to play, okay? So this one, again, full of obvious statements today, but I like to assume nothing, and to not sidestep anything. A business needs money, or more specifically, revenue to survive. Um, if your business was a car engine, the money is the fuel that drives it. It has to be in the equation as part of your idea, because if it isn't there, you're going to really struggle to continue on with developing and building that idea. It is the lifeblood of your business. So we have to kind of think about this in terms of where the money is coming from, how we're going to monetize what we're doing, and what that might look like as an economy for our idea. Okay. So on that note, in terms of the value, i.e. the money, but the value, what value does the market see in Tune FM? Why would they spend money on this platform? Any thoughts? Any ideas? That's a question. I want you to dig in. Feel free to type on chat on this one. But what value does the market see in Tune FM? Why would they want to spend their money? Why would anybody want to spend their money doing this? As somebody coming along and finding this platform, it's cheaper for them than other alternatives. Quite right, Sarah. Quite right. Any other thoughts? Feel free to bring up. There's no wrong answers here, guys. Floor is wide open for you. Happy for you to put your thoughts in here. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to share with you one example. Really, it's a double-sided market. Okay. From the artist side of it, you've got artists that will pay to access new listeners. Okay. So they want to expand their audience, and they want to onboard new fans. So in that sense, that enables them to, rather than pay for an advert where they might say, hey, look at our new album, they can actually pay a new audience to engage with their music. It's a far better ROI for them, because they've got a greater chance of people listening to the music and then going and exploring perhaps other albums, other tracks that they've done. It's a great model for artists to be able to actually connect with an expanded audience. From a user's point of view, you are paid to listen to new music. So that's a big win, right? It's quite nice for a change to be on that side of the coin where you can actually listen to something new, and you can actually be paid to do that in the jam tokens. Also, you can use these jam tokens to access exclusive events and experiences as well. And that might be equally through the NFT marketplace that they'll put in place on that platform too. So there are options there that really kind of appeal from the point of view of both the artist and the user in that double-sided market. It's about bringing clear value through to each of those personas that you are looking at with your idea. So obviously, I'm going to say this again, a great idea needs to have enough value that customers will pay or invest to use or access it to solve a problem that they are facing. Be surprised how many times that gets overlooked as well. Okay, so to summarize, this is what a good idea in this hackathon has to start with. Grab a drink of water. This is a basic idea, so have a quick look at that list. got to use DLT, distributed ledger technology, and its associated capabilities. So DApps, tokens, the different services that are exposed. It can't be created with Web2 technologies alone. It has to solve a problem that people value enough to pay for. And it's got to be financially sustainable or viable as an idea, right? If you can't kind of pull those things together, it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of be successful on this journey that you want to go on. So consider those as you go through this. I also want to call out that if you explore those concepts further in our rubric, this is available, guys, in the participants guide under the judging criteria, right down the bottom of that page under full rubric. You can access the full rubric for how we're going to evaluate your ideas. Check this rubric before you submit your ideas, because there are lots of clues in there as to how to make sure that your idea is a good one. Okay. Now, obviously, with TuneFM, they are well on their way. They are a startup looking to become a scale up with customers, with partners, and with product market fit as well. And product market fit means that they have ideated a solution to a problem that the market sees value in and they're willing to pay for. And there's a whole process of taking an idea and creating product market fit. We're going to dig into this some more, but this involves ideation, validation, and then iterating on these until you find product market fit. So I'm going to tell you a little story to start with, and you can see if this resonates with you. Okay, so imagine that as somebody that's really innovative and creative, you've got a great idea and you love it. Okay, you share it with your team. They love it. You might be a team, your friends, your co-founders, and they love it too, right? Your developer then smashes the keys for days, weeks, maybe months to build out your first version. And then finally, you get to share your idea with the market, but they are confused. They don't see what you see with your idea. Okay, this is a bit of an example of excitement over validation. So to give you a bit of an idea around the perspectives angle on this, what do you see in this picture? Now, this is very random, but what do you see? Type in the chat if you've got some ideas in terms of what you see when you look at this picture. You know, it could be two people, it could be two birds, it could be a brain, wings, says Jeremy, thank you. It could be an insect's face. It could be all sorts. These are those pictures that could be anything, right? Two birds about to kiss. Yep, you got it, Jackie. It's feeling romantic. I love it. The point here is that everybody, all of the above, thank you, Sarah, all of the above. The point here is that everybody has different perspectives. Create a solution, you'll need more than just your own perspective on the problem, okay? More customer or market feedback, i.e. perspective, to unicorns, I love it, perspective will increase your chance of creating a solution to the problem that will be high enough value for the market to actually pay for and to see value in, okay? So more feedback, more input increases your chance of success of creating something that those out in the market will want to actually part with money and use, okay? And that idea that I love then becomes a solution that the market loves, but only if you involve the market. Okay, can't do it on your own. That's a sacrilege. So this is why ideation is important. It's a process of validating an idea that might be exciting, but it's in its early stages, is absolutely full of assumptions. It needs to be tested. So before we turn that idea into code, it's really important that we test those assumptions with the market and that we have flexibility to pivot and change that idea as we go. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through this again. I'm going to dig in a little deeper here again on ideation and what this looks like. So in terms of prototyping, which is one component of ideation, you know, at its lowest form, you have a really simple idea. It's naive, it might be immature, it might have loads of assumptions in it. it's not tested. You might sort of create it from post-its or just a brainstorm in terms of talking with folks around it. But its superpower is that it's super easy to change. Okay. At the medium level of prototyping, you're modeling what that idea looks like. You're testing it with the market. You can still edit and change it quickly enough. And it might be something like an interactive mock-up, for example. Those changes start to take a little longer to do. Then, at a high fidelity prototype, you're starting to convert that idea into code. You're actually starting to use the technology. It might be a working demo or a sandbox, and that starts to take more time to change as you do that. Okay. So, quick quiz time. Type in the chat now which stage you are at for your idea. So, with the idea that you're bringing in either to this hackathon, you might have already brought an idea in that you've started. You might be starting a brand new idea as part of this. Type in stage that you're at. 0 is no idea at all. I don't know. I haven't got one. 1's low. 2 is medium. 3 is high. Great. Joe, thank you. 1. Sarah, 2. Andre, 3. Hopfit Sidini, 2. Autumn, Derek, 1. Perfect. So we've got a real range of different folks at different stages with prototyping. 1 from WCM, 1 from Fred as well. Awesome. Good work. Like to see it. Okay, we're going to go through a bit more now. We're going to dig a bit deeper still. I'm going to come back to this one and sanity check you on this. Okay, so thank you for the input. Really appreciate it. Let's go on to the next slide. So let's think about this in terms of low fidelity. Okay, we're going to dig into this. So often in a hackathon, I'll get presented with a low fidelity idea. Okay, and sometimes it's dressed as a high fidelity one. Because like our slide earlier, somebody got really excited and jumped straight into code. I can hold my hands up to this. I've definitely been there. Like I said, I've been doing code for 20 years. At some point, it might be I've definitely got overexcited and jumped straight into code. It happens. But it's really that we ideate and we spend time challenging assumptions. Okay, that first phase of prototyping should be low fidelity. Okay, I don't know if I need to restate that, but I kind of feel like I should be low fidelity, which means that you're open to changing your idea quickly and respond to feedback quickly as well. So often a low fidelity idea could look like, I mentioned earlier, like wireframes or sketches, similar to the one that's on the sort of our slide at the moment. It could be post-its or a whiteboard. So you might sort of go through that classic whiteboard post-it kind of approach where you're sketching things out on there, putting some notes, grouping them together, moving it around. That's great. Done that before. That works well as well. You'll brainstorm with your with some other folks to get different perspectives in the mix from your team. But fundamentally, there is no code. And that's really important to make sure that this is really quick and easy to change and simple. The ideas essentially have to be really cheap at this stage. They can't be expensive, otherwise you kill your idea before you get started. Keep your ideas cheap, keep them quick to work with, keep them extremely agile so that you're able to flip and change as that idea morphs in its really early stages. Okay, this is really the broad strokes of idea formation, and it's super likely that this is untested or not tested with the market at this stage, right? You've just got a really broad sentiment of what it is. So even in the sort of low fidelity phase, you're going to need to be able to explain and demo your idea so that you can get feedback to make the changes that you need. Okay, it might be that you create the idea and then you want to get feedback to kind of go, what do you think of this? So what tools have you experienced that might help you do that? In chat, give me some examples. What have you used that might sort of be a tool that you use at low fidelity where you share an idea? So you're kind of you've just formed it, you've put it down, and you want to actually share that with somebody and tell them about your idea. What tools have you used? If you've got any sort of important thoughts that you've used previously for this, feel free to share it. I mentioned a few in the last slide, so Share your ideas if you'd like in chat. Once again, always welcome the engagement in terms of putting your sort of thoughts into this. Pics, mock-ups, says Sarah. Yeah, quite right. That's great. That's absolutely perfect. Those are the pinnacle of kind of choices to make. Any others? Any other kind of ideas folks have kind of used for low fidelity ideas when you've been trying to communicate an idea to your market? Figma. Okay, interesting. Yep. Drawings. Yep. Thank you, Joe. Awesome. Low scale testing, flow diagrams. Right, yeah, they're all coming thick and fast now. Love it. Great work, guys. Thank you for your input. Really value it. Okay, so I'm going to touch on some of these as we go through it so that you can kind of have a look. You might use a real old school approach, back of a napkin sketch, and depending on how good of an artist you are, you might be more on the left or more on the right sort of thing, right? But fundamentally, just sketching down your ideas on there. PowerPoint, Molly. You got it, Jackie. Mentioned post-its, markers, whiteboards. These are a great kind of option for being able to very quickly scribble down some thoughts, group them together to move them around. Really enables you that flexibility really early on. And often, grab a picture of it to sort of save that point in time of thinking as well. That's a great option. Myro, says Joe as well. Yep. Okay, cool. Here we go. Joe, just timely of you, exactly right. You might use Miro or Balsamic, something like that. Your timing was impeccable then, Joe, on that one. If you're somebody that enjoys software approaches to low fidelity prototyping, Miro and Balsamic are great options. You don't have to have a whiteboard. You don't need anything physical. They can be far easier for sharing virtually as well. So those can be a great option when you're working remotely and distributed like you are in this hackathon. Okay, so those are good options. Thank you for your input. Okay, so at this point, right, thinking about where we're at with our ideation, if this was our process, I can take these ideas and I can share them with customers who have the problem we're trying to solve, right? This is a really important step. So you've created an initial picture of it, share it with some customers, but most importantly, not mates, not family. They have a sense of loyalty and bias in the picture, right? They're going to tell you your idea is great. Of course they are. They love you. They want you to do well. But use somebody that is not a friend, not family, and share it with them. You're looking for somebody that's a customer that faces this problem. And you might share it in the form of surveys. So any of these, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, Typeform, it's kind of they're nice, easy, there's free options there as well. And you might ask those people about the problem, about the solution, about the idea, and all of those kind of bits of input that you get are going to help you to define the problem even better with the customers in mind. So you make sure that you incorporate and match their expectations as you move forward, right? This is a really important step that gets overlooked. So make sure that after you've formed your idea, you do that initial bit of feedback and input from somebody that is facing that problem that you're trying to solve. Really important part of the journey. So, question time. We've had an idea, we've sketched it out, it's been validated by people within your team initially. You've also then gone out and you've checked the market that have that problem. You've asked some questions about it with your low fidelity idea. My question to you now, dear fam that are in the room with me right now, is do we code now? Give me either your favorite emoji, give me a yes, give me something in chat. Tell me, do we code now at this stage of the process? I want to have your input, so feel free. No wrong answers. Feel free to just drop something in chat. Jeremy says plan first. Jackie says, no, don't do it. If I knew there was a meme in there, I could feel like Jackie. No, says WCM, thank you. Low code maybe says Joe, thank you, Joe. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting some sentiment here. You know that this is going to be a bit of a trick question, right? You're sussing me out. I like it. Okay, so we're at low fidelity right now. We haven't committed to the idea in full. We're still essentially playing with the idea, right? And so we need to be agile enough that we can quickly make changes. And with that picture about the low, medium, high fidelity earlier that was there with the picture of the horse, you might want to turn that horse into a sheep, or you might want to add an extra leg, or you might want to make it pink or something, right? You've got to be able to do that really quickly. So absolutely right. Adding, updating, and removing features in code is expensive. So let's step up to medium fidelity first. Otherwise, this kind of picture that you see on this slide is really going to be the reaction you get from your developers. You get them to code and then introduce changes too early. Do not frustrate your developers. And most importantly, do not waste a load of resources as you're going through ideation. If you jump into code too early, that's a very real risk for you, okay? So at medium fidelity then, we're going to get more committed to the idea, which has been shaped by our initial feedback. Now we need to check that the response we've created to that feedback is right. So we start making some more tangible and realistic mock-ups that sort of mimic the way that the product is going to behave, so that your target market can interact with it and get a feel for how it might work. Can you see how that shifts? It goes from looking at something that's a little bit sort of just a visual to then being able to play with it and actually use it a little bit, click around with it, right? So key aspects of medium fidelity is going to be that it needs to be an interactive user interface. They need to be able to move things around or click on things to be able to get a sense of it. Okay? You're starting to establish the user experience with this as well. So how the application might flow, what different things might be presented on each screen, for example, that type of thing. It can be low or no code at this stage, right? Still doesn't need to have code in it. It can be low or no code, and it can be sort of in this mock-up type of format. So I think one of you mentioned before. I'm not going to scroll up, otherwise I'll lose my flow. But one of you mentioned before about Figma. That's kind of exactly where this is medium fidelity. It's about interactive. Granted, some of these platforms do different stages of prototyping, right? So some of them will do with the wireframes, but fundamentally, you can use any of these on screen as kind of a medium fidelity tool. It's still cheap, it's still quick-ish to be able to make changes in there. It still allows you to remain agile. Now, at this stage, when you're at medium fidelity, you've got a clear idea that's starting to form. Okay, this lets your customers or your market play with your idea and provide further valuable feedback and validation. I'm hoping you're getting that theme. I'm keeping coming back at you, mentioning about validation and feedback, right? It's so important. Okay. So when it comes to medium fidelity, we can continue testing our idea with our market. So we can use customer surveys like we did before, with the low fidelity idea. Nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine. It's still a good way of getting feedback. You can also do things like webinars for real-time feedback or stream of conscience for people. You know, that first knee-jerk reaction they get when they see something like, oh, that doesn't work, or yeah, I love that. You can see that a lot easier on a webinar than you can through a survey, right? So it's good for that. You can do user feedback groups. So you might have larger cohorts testing. You might do more formal market testing, something like usertesting.com. You can use it in that way to give masses of feedback, if you like, as well. And those platforms enable you to define which industry, geolocation, all of that sort of stuff that you want to sort of target, if that's up to you as well. Just as a quick, from an idea point of view as well, have you noticed how many of the platforms that I'm mentioning so far are just Web 2? Just have a think about that as well. There's plenty of ideas just around that alone. The trick remains the same though when you're at medium fidelity. Okay, you've got to be able to move quickly and to make changes. This stage, we've basically done our due diligence. We've crafted an MVP with lots of feedback and validation to help us get closer to product market fit. Okay, now we get to code. Everybody's like, accelerate, excitement. We're committed to the idea. This is why this is why it's called high fidelity at this point. We're committed. We've found an idea, we've taken it through a little bit of a journey, but now we're committing to it. It's a high fidelity idea. We think we have a high chance of product market fit. Okay, so what might this look like when it's a high fidelity idea? So when you're at this stage, you move more into a code orientated tooling or approach. Okay, so there's a couple of ideas on screen here at the moment, but Gitpod is a good example of that. And you might also have a community of early adopters who are excited as they've been on this journey with you. So all of those people that you've asked questions with as you've gone along, keep them in the loop. They are your perfect early adopter audience to engage with you as you continue going through this process. So they're excited to see something evolve that they've been part of. Okay, so a high fidelity idea tends to be a proof of concept. Fundamentally, it's using the code of the technology that you're choosing. So in this hackathon, obviously that's going to be Hedera Hashgraph, right? You can use the code with the SDKs that we provide through our platform. You're going to use something like a working demo or an MVP. It's going to be in its sort of sandbox form using, like I said, Gitpod before. But at this point, when you're introducing changes, and this is a really important point as well, so make a note of this one. Changes are tweaks at this point. They are slow and they are purposeful, or they're slower and they're purposeful. Okay, you're not a rascally bouncing around and shifting the idea madly, sort of thing. You're actually just refining and shaping the idea as you're sort of moving it forward at this point. Obviously, from an ideation point of view, that is less agile to a degree, right? You're starting to lock in the direction that you're heading in, and you're operating more to a mindset of having a roadmap of perhaps where you want to take that idea. You might not be able to do everything right now, but you might go, "That's a great idea. I'm going to fit it in next quarter or the one afterwards." You start building with purpose. And at this stage, fundamentally, your idea is selected. You are sort of locking yourself in. So you have to make sure that when you are at that sort of stage, that's the kind of mindset and commitment that you're in with your idea. So when you submit your idea to this hackathon, part of your pitch needs to show us that you've been through this process of ideation and validation with your market. Okay. Again, check out the rubric. It's in the participants guide. It's under judging criteria. It's right down the bottom under full rubric. Do not miss this out. This will guide you on how to do this successfully. Okay. Check it out. Go and look at it. If you haven't got it yet, go and grab it. It's important for you guys. Now, finally, this is kind of fundamental part of this, that when you are coming to this end of the ideation process, your ideation actually doesn't stop necessarily, but it morphs. It changes into product development instead. So if none of you have seen this book before, I encourage you to go and grab a copy. It's by Eric Ries, called A Lean Startup. It is gold dust for anybody that's doing a startup or a new idea. And I'm just gonna see that question. How do you compress prototype and ideation process in a limited duration? Great question, Brendan. I'll come back to that in a second. At this sort of stage, at this end of it, you are going through a process of building out a product. Fundamentally, you want to be able to measure that product. When you measure it, you're going to get data from the measurements that you've taken that are going to enable you to learn something new about what it is that you've built. From that learning comes new ideas that you can then build and create products from, and measure and data and learn. Again, it becomes this beautiful cycle of product development that enables you to be data driven in the way that you're building out your ideas. So, Brendan, how do you compress prototype and ideation process in a limited duration? I'm going to jump on that one quickly now. In this kind of format of hackathon, we have got sort of 4 weeks, right? So obviously there's going to be some limits around the amount of engagement that you can do in that time. It's not as bad as it would be if it was a 24-hour or a weekend one or even a week hackathon. You've got a little bit more room and breathing room to be able to do it. But I would encourage you to tap into some existing audiences that will enable you to get some of that early feedback that will help you in the hackathon. So think about it in terms of different groups of people. For me, in the past, when I've done this, I might have gone and found a group of people that are feeling the problem I'm tackling on somewhere like Facebook or LinkedIn. I know those platforms feel a little yucky because they're Web2, but they have masses of people on them, right? So you can go there, you can find groups of people that are in the sort of problem domain that you're tackling, and you can share those surveys with them. Obviously, honor the rules of the groups. When you do that, guys, please ask admins if it's okay to share it, that type of thing. But that can be done so quickly. It's untrue. You can put together a survey quite quickly. You can share it really quickly. And then it's just the energy of trying to prompt people and find engagement from different locations that's going to take a little bit of bandwidth for you, but it's still not massive in the grand scheme of things, right? So you can go through that process over the course of a very short period of time and enable you to cycle through into each stage of the ideation prototyping. And it doesn't have to be a really big deal. Yes, it's a process, but it's a very important process that you take through with you. And you've got the luxury of that time with this hackathon. It's purposefully a longer form hackathon for that very reason. Okay, we want you to be successful and we want you to be able to make sure you have time to go through these steps. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question again now based on what we've shared so far. What stage is your idea at right now? I asked this question earlier and we've explained some stuff since that's really talked to low, medium, high fidelity. We've dug into those a bit more. We've talked about the tools. We've talked about perhaps how you might involve the market at that stage of it as well. Feel free to reshare if you'd like in there. It would be good if particularly if you've changed your mind, if you've shifted a little bit from when we asked this earlier on. Has something changed for you in terms of hearing what you've heard as we've gone through this? Are you perhaps earlier than you thought you were? Are you a little bit further along? It could be either. The crux of this, realistically, is that coding is undoubtedly super cool, right? I love it. I wouldn't be in the role that I'm in. 2.7 says Sarah, thank you. And Joe says 1, WCM says 1, Tommy says 0. And that's okay, Tommy. You're at a great place to be able to ideate and move forward now. So you're in that exactly the place that you need to be able to move forward with this content that I've shared today. Fundamentally, coding is cool, right? I've just said that in terms of I wouldn't be in this role if I didn't love technology and I didn't love code. I wouldn't have spent 20 years of my career in it if I didn't love it. But creating a product from an idea needs time on the road with your market and with your customers, okay? Consider this in your team as you are building them. We're just sort of getting past that point of, we're still early days, but we're getting past that point of perhaps where you're forming teams. Some of you might already have your team members in there. Some of you might still just be kind of trying to find a team that you want to meet with. But consider this in the teams that you join, okay? Who is going to talk to the market? Is there somebody in your team that has those skills? Even more importantly, is there somebody in your team that has that network already? That's a really kind of savvy one, right? If you've got somebody that has a network of people for a problem that you're going to address, bingo, you've already tapped into some great feedback straight away. Okay, so consider that as you're building your teams. So, quick recap from what we've covered today, because we're coming up to time on this preso, and I want to make sure I leave you some room for questions and also networking as well. So we've looked at a great successful Hedera startup and analyzed what makes it a good idea. And we've explored a process of ideation, how it can increase your chance of success in this hackathon and hopefully beyond as well. We've identified the 3 stages of prototyping, what they look like and where your idea sits at. And hopefully you've seen some shifts in that as we've talked through the content. And now my hope is that you can now see the true purpose and power of a good ideation process in your Web3 idea and with your Web3 idea, and how you can use ideation to optimize your chances of success as you're building. Now, I want to open the floor on this. Now, I've talked to you a lot as we've gone through this. We've had a little bit of interaction, but I want to open the floor if there are any further questions or thoughts that you can feel free to type to me as far as the chat now. And also open your mic. I'll jump off stage in a second and you can actually come and stand next to me if you want to use your mic, and then that way we'll be able to hear each other. I'm keen for you to be able to go through that process with me. So in a second, I'll jump off stage. Before I just do that, to sort of be able to take some questions from you directly, I do want to make sure that I share some key resources with you that you can get benefit from as well. So just in terms of getting next steps in place, perhaps some places that you want to find extra info. We've got some great documentation for getting started over at Hedera as well. So feel free to jump into that hedera.com/get-started. Obviously, you've got the docs there as well. I've put on the slides purposely for your reference, and you'll be able to access these afterwards. Things like the grant homepage and where the application form is with the HBAR Foundation. Really important fund that are looking after the treasury account for Hedera and making sure that we have support for ecosystem development. So go and check that out as well. We've got some great coding resources. And obviously, please tap into our community. They are wonderful and they will be here to support you as well. So we've got those over on Discord. We've got obviously dedicated place over on Stack Overflow as well for you to do Q&A too. So feel free to use those. My last ask before I jump off the stage to take questions from you directly is that we love hearing your feedback as part of these sessions. If you have found value in what's been shared with you today, even if you haven't and you think it stinks, please share your feedback with us. I've got the QR code on screen for you purposefully right now. Feel free to scan that. It's a really short survey. It will just enable us to capture your input in terms of what you've enjoyed from this session. If you're watching this async, please feel free to do the same. We will leave that form open for a little while. Select the session that you've attended today, being around ideation, and then provide the feedback for us as well. That would be amazing. Final, a massive thank you for spending your time with me today. I really love having this time with the community and having the engagement from you. Really super enjoy it. So I'm going to drop off the stage for a moment in a second once that QR code has been up a little longer, and I'll be able to take questions from you. So feel free to jump over to the side of the stage in a moment and ask your questions away over the mic or over on chat if you feel more comfortable with that. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it.